All right, let's get to the biggest news of today, where the Embracer Group has bought, I think, all of the Square Enix Western division. So, as you know, Square Enix is a Japanese publisher who has been creating games like Final Fantasy and Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, if you remember that game, and some other highly profile games. And Square Enix had a weird relationship to their Western studios for ages. I think they never really liked the idea to have Western studios. Like they very much believe in the quality of their own studios in Japan, and for them, maybe over like 2 decades ago, somebody said at their board, "We need Western studios. We need Western games to break into the Western market. So let's buy some studios which are up for grab," right? And so they got Eidos, they got Crystal Dynamics, and they got Eidos Montreal, which was then called Square Enix Montreal, right? So, but you never really had the feeling that those Western studios were up to the task. And when you were also looking at how much money those studios made, it's relatively interesting. The Western studios didn't make too much money for Square Enix. The win margin was pretty shit. I hate to say this, but Crystal Dynamics had a profit margin of 3.6% in 2021, while Eidos Montreal had a profit margin of 0.65% in 2021. Keep in mind that Square Enix as a whole had an operating income margin of 14.2% last year. Like it's super interesting when you were going through all those numbers and you just realize that they're not making that much money for how much they cost them. And I think it became pretty clear when a few years ago they kicked out good old IO Interactive, the creators of Hitman, right? Like the creators of Hitman were literally kicked out, and they told them, "Good luck, suckers. If you survive this, well, we will see. Good luck." And they barely didn't. Like IO Interactive said it themselves. They basically had money for like 2 more months before Hitman 2 came out. And they had the publishing deal with Warner Brothers, and that gave them some extra time to finish up the game. But if Hitman 2 didn't make the money it made, they would have been dead. Like that would have been the end of IO Interactive, and the Hitman IP would have been dead in the water. It's as simple as that, which is kind of crazy. And it really showed me back in the day how much Square Enix actually doesn't care for any of their Western corporations or IPs, and doesn't even understand really what makes those Western IPs and companies tick. Here's, by the way, the win margins and whatnot of Crystal Dynamics and Eidos I'm showing in the background. And, well, thankfully, Hitman 2 was a success, and Hitman 3 even more so, and it made them so much money that they can operate under their own banner now, that they have multiple studios, and that they are now working officially. They're probably working more, but they are now officially working on an 007 IP, which is fantastic, right? Like IO Interactive barely survived, and now they're independent. But it's just to make the point here, it just showed how Square Enix didn't understand and didn't care for their Western companies. Square Enix should just keep itself with Final Fantasy. That's the best they can do, and really only IP that's going for them. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating when you were looking That's a good point. But it's kind of fascinating at this point to just see Square Enix. Well, they had some good ones like what was the name? Triangle Strategy was actually doing pretty well. What was the other one? They had something similar which came out a few years ago, the 2.5D graphics and all that. Um, but yeah, Square Enix seems to be a little bit lost in where they want to go. Like over the last few years, Square Enix that struck me as a company who wants to be modern and does what the other big gaming companies does, but they're just failing utterly with it. Like Babylon's Fall, which became Babylon's Fail. Um, that game, another live service game where Square Enix desperately wanted to get into the live service market because they heard how much money is they be to made, and they completely botched that again. The Outriders, which is not a live service game, but Square Enix wanted it to treat it like a live service game, and then they're disappointed that it wasn't becoming that. It's like, what? Yeah, no. Or another example, and this is very interesting, Marvel Avengers, right? So you might actually ask yourself, huh, wh- yeah, what happened now to Marvel Avengers? Because as you might know, Marvel Avengers is, well, made by, I think, Eidos Montreal, it was, and Square Enix had the license and the contract for it. And well, that studio got now bought. And believe it or not, you were not the only person who asked that question. And I will just show you this quick little snippet. It's not that long, it's 2 minutes, where they're exactly asking that question.
Just want to ask about the two recently released Marvel licensed games, Marvel's Avengers and Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. Are they included in the transaction? I assume not.
Well, yes, all games that has been developed by the studios are included in the transaction. However, a number of
So they did buy the
external
license for that.
approvals are needed from external parties in order to close this
So
transaction.
Marvel slash Disney has to approve this.
And potentially licensors, as you mentioned here, could be one of those approvals needed.
By the way, this is the CEO of the Embracer Group, or one of the C level managers.
Just to understand that correctly, if that would be
Not this guy.
I mean, is that the base case that it is approved and that they
the other guy with the
part
suit
of the deal and that you can develop games based on these IPs ahead?
I don't expect any notable commercial agreement relating to the studios or this transaction to be declined by either regulatory parties or business partners. However, that remains to be seen, obviously. I think your question was relating to the two existing games and whether they will be still operated and built upon and changed from the existing plans today going forward. And I think that is the color I can give you on this, Oscar.
Yep. So he has to be, of course, a little bit careful with what he is saying here, right? Like there's a lot of like laws and things you're allowed to say, things you're not allowed to say. You know, the whole shebang, right? But I think he has been pretty honest here with this. Yes, they bought the license for this. They like with the deal, they also got a license for those two games. Now, of course, Marvel slash Disney has to say, yo, we agree on this. Thing is, why wouldn't they? Right? Like, why wouldn't they do this? You know? So, it seems like in the future, we will continue to see those games. What I find very interesting is, just think about this for a second. Just think about it for a second. They have paid 300 million US dollars for 3 studios, all of their IPs, and probably also the licensing deal when it comes to Marvel/Disney. Wow. That's a steal. That's not a steal. That's a summer sale. And Square Enix just said, okay, you know what? Just take them. Take them all. Take everything. Wait, you want to give me money for this? You want to pay me for that? No, I would have just given it to you. Oh, you have to. Oh, I have to give you a reasonable price. Dude, I have a yacht coming in this weekend. I think will cost me about like 300 million. Just give me 300 for this. Yeah, whatever. No, I don't want no more. Nah, just take it, man. Just take it. Like, that's how it feels, which is absolutely insane. Like, yeah, sure, those studios might not have been as profitable as Square Enix wanted, because, well, Square Enix wants a lot, but it's not very reasonable from what we have heard. But it's just like 300. So they basically paid 100 million for every studio, and they got over 50 IPs with this. Like, I cannot even put this into words. Like, you look at like other gaming deals we have seen. Like, oh my god, how much was it? Let me look this very much up very quickly. Sony buys Bungie, right? For Bungie alone, Sony paid 3.6 billion US dollars. 3.6 billion for Destiny and Bungie alone. And Square Enix is like, oh, you want our whole Western catalog of games and studios? Give me 300 million for it. Sure. Sure, whatever. Yeah, you can have all the games, all the IPs. All of it. It's just mind-boggling. Like, it really shows you how much they basically hated their Western division. How much they were disconnected from the Western division of Square Enix. Like, seriously. It's mind-boggling. It's cheaper than Twitter. Including some legendary, if inactive IPs. I have to say something about this. And I said it already on Twitter. The inactive IPs, okay. That's a nice bonus, but probably not that important. Like, don't forget, please. Don't forget. Even we old-timers remember all those like big IPs from the past. Like Thief, The Legacy of Kain. Heck, even Deus Ex at this point. Like, we have now at least one, if not even two, gaming generations in between who have never heard of those games. Like, most people might still have heard of Deus Ex, but if you are mentioning Thief, or if you are mentioning Soul Reaver, The Legacy of Kain, right? Nobody knows what that is. Nobody cares. Like, you have to reinvigorate that, right? Or like Dex. Apparently, they also got the Dex license, and some people are like, "Oh my god, Dex is back!" I was like, don't get me wrong. Even me as an old school gamer, I know, I remember the logo of Dex. I've never played it, and I couldn't care less about the IP. Again, it's like a lot of the IPs they got here need some serious work on before anybody cares for that. Like, the Tomb Raider IP, definitely important for the Embracer Group. Deus Ex was probably important to them. And yeah, like they have a few games which are probably important to them. But hey, maybe we are finally getting the second part of Mankind Divided. Yay! That would be nice. That would be really nice. Maybe we are finally finding out how that whole thing was supposed to end. That would be neat. I'm pretty sure we will start to hear some stories. I'm pretty sure we will start to hear some stories on, now that Square Enix doesn't have to. Like, Square Enix, it's kind of funny that I say that as somebody who has worked for that company. But so I can say this from my own experience. Square Enix is a company who keeps a very, very tight ship when it comes to talking about anything, really. And so I can see under the Embracer umbrella, we will probably hear more about what happened to Deus Ex, what happened to those games which got deleted from the face of the earth, and how Square Enix was basically saying, "No, we don't want that." Yeah, like I'm actually see that coming by now. Yeah. So, and I'm all for it. Hit me. Like, you have to tell me something about the Deus Ex which got killed. Yeah, let me know. Let me know. Or even better, we're actually getting that as a game. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, also keep in mind, like, I know that the Embracer Group is always slipping a little bit under the radar, and I have seen a lot of people asking, like, Embracer who? And it's like, folks, I talked about this for years, but please do not forget about the Embracer Group. They have THQ Nordic. They have Deep Silver, aka Koch Media, right? Or Koch Media, as the English people love to say. No, like, they have Koch Media, right? They own Gearbox now. I know that some people sometimes forget this, but they own Gearbox. All of it. They own Perfect World. All of it. Like, I actually saw a let me show you this meme. This is a fantastic meme, I think, which basically fits the whole thing pretty well. THQ spends too much on UDraw and goes bankrupt. One company now owns Crystal Dynamics, Gearbox, Deep Silver, Saber Interactive, 3D Realms, THQ Nordic, and much, much more. This is a fantastic meme because it's kind of true and it's really frightening. Like, I know that people are always like, oh, Microsoft got a new studio again. Oh, Sony got one. Oh, Tencent, the devil. And then there's Embracer Group who's like, yeah, look at Sony. Look at Microsoft. Don't look at us. Look over there. Look, see what Microsoft is trying to do. Oh, they're trying to buy Activision Blizzard. Focus on that. We're just over here buying all the rest you don't look at. Like, that's a frightening prospect. A very, very frightening prospect. I just want to make that absolutely clear. Speaking of that, I'm actually kind of surprised. They sold all of this for $300 million US, right? Why has nobody else shown them any interest? Where was Microsoft? Where was Tencent? Where was Sony? 300 mil? For all this? What? Like, how? Like, don't get me wrong, the Embracer Group is a big company, but they're very much known for being cheap when they're buying and doing acquisitions in comparison to the others. And you would have at least thought that any of the other big super corporations would be in on this and could easily outplay the Embracer Group. So, wow. That maybe means, and this is really just me fantasizing right now. There is no basis on this. I haven't heard any chatter. Like, I know nothing about this. This is just me playing my thought process here right now. Maybe that's because they're already scooping up bigger fishes. Like, what if Microsoft is focusing right now on Ubisoft? I mean, hey, buying another problematic studio or company, right? What if Sony is thinking about buying Square Enix right now? Like, that Square Enix was, or Sony was like, yeah, okay, we are buying like all the Japanese stuff, but we don't really care for the Western part. Like, do whatever you like with those studios. We don't care. That's your problem. But we will buy you later on, right? Like, what if that is already going on, and this is why they were not available to buy like those small Western studios? Could be that they have just bigger fishes to fry at this point. We don't know. We just don't know. By the way, I also saw a funny meme. Somebody was saying that if Square Enix and Ubisoft would merge, they could be called Squaresoft. And it's kind of funny. If you didn't know, especially for the younger generation here, Squaresoft was the name of Square Enix before Square and Enix merged. So there was basically the Enix Corporation and Squaresoft, and they merged together. Funny enough, not for gaming. This was not a gaming merger, funny enough. This was an anime merger and a manga merger, because Square and Enix were pretty big names, still are pretty big names in Japan when it comes to anime and all that. Speaking of which leads me to believe that Sony might actually be this close to scoop up Square Enix. Because Sony has been, if you didn't know, because you don't care about anime and manga, Sony has been just swooping up all those anime streaming platform. Like in the West now, they are owning their own Crunchyroll and their own Aniplex, and what is the other name? They have another one, a big one, and they were basically like the big three, and they are now all under the Sony umbrella. Everyone is owned by Sony now. And so it wouldn't surprise me too much if Sony is also eyeing the possibility to buy Square Enix as a whole, not just the gaming division, but also their anime, manga division, and their merchandise, and also entertainment division. Like some people again forget this also. Square Enix is not just video games. Square Enix is a conglomerate of a lot of different companies who do very different things, especially in Japan, right? It's a bit like Konami. Like when people think about Konami, they think about pachinko and some video games here and there, right? But did you actually know that Konami itself is one of the biggest providers of health insurance in Japan, which was a big problem for Kojima when he got kicked out of Konami. He needed health insurance for their employees, and because Konami had this big powerhouse in Japan, they didn't really get health insurance, and Sony and some others had to step in and basically be like, come on, like, help us out here, right? Like, absolutely fascinating. Or like another thing, Konami is absolutely huge. I think they're actually the biggest in Japan, is gyms. They own hundreds and thousands of gyms in Japan, and they are basically like the biggest like gym provider in Japan. Like a lot of people don't know that. It's just fascinating. But so this brings us back to what Square Enix is doing. And maybe this is now the time where Sony, or maybe even Microsoft, which would be crazy. Even though I think if Microsoft would have bought Square Enix, they would have taken the Western IPs. I think if Microsoft was interested into Square Enix and would buy Square Enix, they would have also bought the Western studios. They would have wanted Tomb Raider. They would have wanted Deus Ex. Right. Like they would have wanted that. So if Square Enix looking for a buyer, I think now it seems like the pendulum has swung into the into the direction of Sony. Like I think this makes the whole chance highly likely that Square Enix might actually be bought by Sony. Tencent, the same thing. I think Tencent would have wanted to buy the Western studios because they're looking for those Western gateways, and the Western studios would have been a perfect fit under the what is it? Prime Matter was also, I think, Embracer Group. What was the new label Tencent has opened up here? It was not Prime Matter. Yeah, Prime Matter is Embracer Group. Prime Matter is Embracer Group. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Tencent Global Gaming label. Let me see. What was their name? Oh yeah, Level Infinite. Yeah. Yes. That was the name. Level Infinite is basically their name. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Let me show you an image of them very quickly so that you are getting an idea what that is. This is Level Infinite. They have GTFO, Metal Hellsinger, Bloodhound, Don't Starve, New Foam, Arena of Valor, Synced, and Warhammer Vermintide, aka Warhammer Darktide. Yeah. And there will be more. So yeah, that's Tencent. But yeah, man, that is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating when you think about it. So yeah, that's a big one. That's a pretty big ones, and I'm very curious to see how they will like now utilize the IPs. To make this very clear for everyone who is now hoping we are getting a new Thief game, Deus Ex, or any of the other IPs. Yes, I am pretty much sure we will get that, but not in the next 3-4 years. Like, it would take quite a while. The whole buyout is apparently finished in a few months. Oh yeah, also some people asked about Sleeping Dogs. Right, the GTA-esque game with the fantastic logo. This is such a good design. I really love it. Sleeping Dogs was really good. I enjoyed it. We don't know what's going on with this IP. Somebody asked on the live stream what is going on with Sleeping Dogs, and they couldn't answer that, interestingly enough. So we don't really know. Like, the problem with Sleeping Dogs is the original creators are dead in the water, and as far as we know, they owned the IP, kinda-ish. Like, it seems to be a little bit more problematic than anything else. But yeah, we have to see what's going on with Sleeping Dogs. But we will see. I would love to see another Sleeping Dogs. Like, Sleeping Dogs was good. It was just, I think they marketed in a bad way, or if they even marketed it. Like, I don't even know. I think I just saw the game and then didn't really expect anything, played it, and it was amazing. But I think I never saw any marketing campaign for it when it came out. Like, I just don't remember anything about that, which would be pretty fitting for anything Square Enix related here in the West. Like, I hate to admit it a bit, but when it comes to Square Enix and marketing their Western products here, it didn't really go too well. Oh, by the way, one last thing before we are now wrapping this up, ladies and gentlemen. You're wondering, 300 million I wonder what Square Enix is planning to do with that. But what do you think? Making more games? Making better games? Oh, please. We're talking about Square Enix here, who are so fascinated now by the blockchain and the possibilities of the blockchain in games and play to earn. If you might remember the comment of the CEO of Square Enix just a few weeks ago, where he basically said like, oh, people who are playing games for fun, I don't get those people. I just don't get them. Like, why didn't they want to earn money when they are playing our games? And let's be honest here, for some of their games, Square Enix should really, really pay us. No, in all seriousness, like they're actually planning to use the money for more blockchain projects. Yeah. Let me show you this before anybody is like, you're lying. No, I do not. Purpose of the transaction. The transaction will assist the company in adapting to changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields of including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. The move is based on the policy of business structure optimization that the company set forth under the medium-term business strategy unveiled on May 13, 2021. The transaction will also provide an opportunity to better align our overseas publishing function with our organization in Tokyo, revisit the current governance structure and associated reporting lines, and advance integrated group management with the goal of maximizing the worldwide revenue generated from future titles launched by the group studios in Japan and abroad. Yep. Going forward, the company's development function will comprise its studios in Japan, Square Enix external studios, and the Square Enix Collective. The company's overseas studios will continue to publish franchises such as Just Cause, Outriders, and Life is Strange. By the way, I just want to make this very clear here. None of those studios are owned by Square. None of those 3 studios. Just Cause is made by Avalanche. They're independent. They're doing their own games. Not owned by Square. They might own the Just Cause IP, and even that I'm not sure about. Not owned. Same with Outriders, People Can Fly, independent studio, not owned. And Life is Strange is owned by, what are they called? Emu? I always forget the name. They have already made other games which are not Life is Strange, and those games were also not published by Square Enix. .not. Thank you, Chad. Yeah, .not. And, like again, not owned by Square Enix. They might own the IP, but not owned by Square directly. So with that, I think Square Enix doesn't have any Western development studios anymore. Let me see. Square Enix. Let me see if I can find. Oh God. Google is trying to tell me that Embracer Group has bought Square Enix. Have you heard about that, Chad? Have you heard about that? Yeah. So they have Creative Business Division, or Creative Business Unit 1, which is focusing on Final Fantasy single-player titles, spin-offs, and Kingdom Hearts. Then they have the Creative Business Unit 2, which is led by Yu Miyake, who was head of the Business Division 6, and he is focusing on Dragon Quest, Nier, and the Bravely Default division. Then we have the creative business unit number 3, which is led by Naoki Yoshida, who is focusing primarily on MMORPG and, of course, Final Fantasy 16, right? And then we have creative business unit 4, which is led by Hirokatsu Nishikado, and they're focusing on the Mana series. Yeah. That's basically what they are focusing now on. And yeah, I don't think they have any I'm looking it up right now. But yeah, they don't have anyone in the West anymore. Nope, that's it. They sold them all. What the heck, man? Crazy, yeah. I heard Embracer Group is going to buy SpaceX. Yes, pretty sure they will. And then it's the Embracer X. That's what they're calling the rocket. But yeah, that's it. They sold all their Western assets. Yep. That's crazy. That's crazy. Huh. Maybe it's good. But the last few years have me left skeptical a little bit. Like, keep in mind, some people will now point out, but yeah, like Marvel Avengers, Mo. Like, look at that game. I mean, that wasn't a fault by Square. Was it, though? Like, I sometimes have the feeling that Square Enix made a lot of bad decisions on putting certain studios on certain games. Like Eidos Montreal, they basically moved them from Deus Ex to Marvel Avengers, like from a single player story driven focus game to a live service game. And I'm pretty sure that was something which Square Enix ordered. So also very interesting. Like, they announced Tomb Raider, what, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Something like that. They announced the new Tomb Raider with a lot of fanfare, and it's like, yeah, that's so typical Square, and now we know probably why, because they already knew the deal was through, and Square Enix was like, not our game anymore. Nope. Like, I can totally see that. Like, it's like, so what does it mean for the future? Let's wrap it up because it gets pretty long. What does it mean for the future? Well, it can mean 3 things, I would say. The first one is Square Enix is now really streamlining Square Enix, and they're preparing the company for the future ahead. And this was a wise investment in the future. And like, future features, wow, which are coming to the gaming industry, like blockchain and all that. Like maybe blockchain is here to stay. I don't believe it. The signs are not there, but let's say that is the case, and Square Enix is making all the right calls, and they are trying to completely focus on the Japanese games because they've realized, oh, look at that. The Western audience is still playing our games. It's like, yeah, duh. Like, who still believes that Japanese games cannot be successful in the Western market? I'm sorry, you are still living in the 70s or 80s. Like, literally, stop it. Like, believe it, Western players will buy good, like, Asian games. There's no question about that. Second, this will all completely backfire and fail, and Square Enix will shrink and shrink and shrink till they're not important anymore, and they will just get bought at that point because they have made the wrong bets, and they were so focused on just following those new technologies without really having a plan, and completely and utterly failing at that. Third solution, or the third path they could take, Square Enix got already bought. We just don't know about it yet. They got already bought. Like, maybe Sony already bought them, and Sony was like, hey, like, get rid of the Western, like, subsidiaries and Western studios. We don't need that. We don't want that. We don't care. Like, whatever. And we are just interested into your Japanese IPs, which would be weird, to be completely honest, because, fun fact, good old Sony has closed down all their Japanese studios. Like, they have only one last Japanese studio, and that is working on Astrobot. I think they're now making Astrobot games, but that's about it. And it's like, it's kind of weird if they would bring back like Japanese studios again by buying Square Enix after they closed down all their own Japanese studios over the years. So it's like, that's weird. But I could still see it, that somebody came in and said, okay, we will buy you for multiple billions, but that Western part of yours, we don't really care what you were doing with it, but just get rid of it. And maybe that was part of the deal. Like, again, this, like, on the one hand, TLDR, Square Enix was never a fan of their Western division. They have made that clear over multiple years, over and over and over again, that they don't fully understand what Western studios and Western audiences want exactly, and that they have been very disappointed by the money those studios could make. On the other hand, this is still a pretty big part of Square Enix identity they just threw out of the window. So it's a bit like, give or take, something is not right. So we have to see. But yeah, with that said, we are done with this talk. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube and you enjoyed our little talk here, I would appreciate if you leave a like. If you're new to the channel, you want to see more of this, gaming news, reaction to game trailers, tips and tricks for Lost Ark as an example, I would also appreciate if you subscribe. If you ever want to catch us live, where we have recorded this, you can find me on trovo.live/ChaosMole from Monday to Friday, starting at 9 a.m. ET, which is 2 p.m. UK time, and 3 p.m. Central European time. And you also sometimes find me streaming on the YouTubes, but then you will see that in your notification. So don't forget to ring the bell icon so that you are actually getting informed when I go live or when I upload a new video. And if you want to go further than all of the things I just mentioned, there's also an option for you to join the Siege. There's a join button underneath the video, and that would be a monthly subscription of $4.99, and that would support me directly. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you next time. Stay safe.